Now, in the meantime, there's plenty more on our website at the usual address. Bye for now.
Oh, wow.
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Charlie State and Naga Munchetti.
Our headlines today.
Still need a test before and after you fly. Critics say it means only the wealthy will be able to afford to travel.
Once again through today and into the weekend. There are some snow showers in the forecast. I'll bring you all the details in about 10 minutes.
Good morning. It's Friday the 9th of April. Our top story is that plans to reopen international travel for holidaymakers from England have been unveiled with a requirement to pay for coronavirus tests.
We've been having a lot of reaction, though, to that news this morning. Airlines UK, that's the group that represents UK airlines, saying it does not represent a reopening of travel in any way. They say the insistence on expensive and unnecessary PCR tests means that people simply will not be able to travel. It poses an unsustainable burden on passengers. And I think that's being reflected right across the industry, because there are calls instead that if you have a positive lateral flow test, only then would you need to have a PCR test, rather than having to have both. This belt and braces approach that the government says is necessary to protect other variants getting back into the UK. Now, Caroline was also mentioning that idea of a green watch list as well, and that's being seen as a very valuable tool for the industry they would have wanted.
Ben, thanks very much. We'll see you later.
Worth saying, we will be speaking to the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps here on Breakfast. It's in not long now, about 20 minutes' time, 7:30 this morning. Get some more.
At stake here, deep questions for politicians in the devolved government here at Stormont, and also for the British and Irish governments.
Chris, thanks very much.
From today, everyone in England has access to 2 rapid coronavirus tests a week, which can provide results in around 30 minutes.
The lateral flow kits will be available at testing sites, pharmacies and through the post. Here's our health correspondent, Dominic Hughes.
Hi, can I pick up a box of lateral flow tests, please? Is that possible?
They've already been rolled out in schools and many workplaces. They're also available at testing centres, online or via work. And pharmacists say they can offer help and advice if needed, which involves swabbing the throat and nose. It's believed the test gives 1 false positive in every 1,000, where someone is wrongly identified as having been infected with the virus. So people are being urged to follow up with a more reliable PCR test if they do return a positive result.
COVID testing as a way of getting full crowds back. In a joint letter to the leaders of the major political parties, the group says a certification process could allow fans to return as quickly as possible. It does warn, though, that the system must not be discriminatory and should protect privacy.
The Welsh Government is speeding up the easing of its COVID restrictions as infection levels continue to drop.
The RSPB annual garden birdwatch results are in. Don't move auto-cue, because I don't want Charlie to see. Which bird do you think was the most observed in our gardens?
The most observed, I'll go the... Oh, are we leaving out the obvious, which is pigeons? What about a robin?
No. And I think pigeons would have been a good shout, but they're not necessarily in gardens as much as towns, are they? Anyway, it was this beautiful thing, the tiny house sparrow, most observed in our gardens for a 2nd year running, Charlie. More than 1 million people took part by watching birds for 1 hour as part of the Big Garden Birdwatch. It's the world's largest wildlife survey. What bird is that? Anyone? OK, please message us. There's like, you know that tumbleweed
I'll tell you
silence?
what kind of bird it is. It's a pretty little bird. That's what it is. Do you know, I was talking to someone...
No ornithologists in this room.
I was talking to someone the other day who took part in the Big Bird Watch, you know, the event.
Yes.
And it was a time, wasn't it? You had a specific time.
Yes, yes.
His garden is always full of birds. And it was like the bird world had been told...
That it was going on.
It was going on. And they sat there waiting for the bird population to be there, as they always are. Not a single bird, literally. It's almost like on the hour. It's like the clock ticked to the time, nothing.
And then 1 minute passed.
You move away and I'll go make a cup of tea.
It was
birds. Whoom, they're all back
It was
down.
like a Hitchcock film.
The word had got out.
Sarah, did you know what bird that was?
Is that something, the idea of someone having to prove who they were before they're allowed to have an account via something like a passport? Would you, if you were in government, go down that pathway?
That kind of pathway where people can be held to account, yes, we would. As I say, there's an issue around whistleblowers and protecting identity in certain circumstances you'd have to build in. But that accountability for what you do online would absolutely be central to the approach of a Labour government.
Travel, holidays is mainly what we're talking about. What concerns do you have about the green light system and the requirement of people, say from a green light, a low-risk country, that when they come back, they have to have a PCR test at a cost of somewhere between £120 and £150? What are your concerns about the system that's been outlined?
Well, the problem that I have is that the system hasn't been outlined in detail. I mean, the government has spoken about, factors like vaccination rates, infection rates, the position with variants, and also about the level of genomic sequencing. But I've no idea what the levels of each of those are for the government to place countries into, whether it's the green category, amber or red. And particularly on a day, by the way, when it's emerged that 150,000 people, since the government introduced a very limited form of hotel, the government needs to get those protections right on our borders now, particularly with a comprehensive system of hotel quarantining, in order to enable that opening up in the future, which of course...
Can you forgive me, if I can just check, that figure, 150,000 you're quoting there, where does that come from? Where are you quoting that from, that 150,000 people are unaccounted for?
You'll find it in the media this morning. The ISU, the Immigration Service Union, estimates that around about 800,000 people have entered the country. The government is only accounting for 640,000 at the moment. That's where the figure comes from. It's in the media this morning. That's extraordinarily worrying, not working. The government has to focus on those because, of course, we all want the hope of holidays abroad later in the year, but they have to get the protections at our border right now.
Our time is up. Can I just ask you the very simple question? Have you booked a holiday?
Elizabeth.
Hello, good morning. It's a frost-free start to the day across the...
In the meantime, there's plenty more on our website at the usual address. Bye for now.